Hey Canucks fans, we have passed American Thanksgiving, and lo and behold, the Canucks are in a playoff spot. I'm Clay Emo, I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter, I'm at Clayton Emo on Instagram, I'm the founder of the GLCPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Friday, November the 29th. And yes, American Thanksgiving was yesterday, November 28th, and the Canucks at the time of yesterday, at the end of last night, were sitting in a tie for third place in the Pacific Division. Not even in the wild. They're in the wild card fight just by nature of being tied for third place. But and I say this because I'm recording this at 4:00 on Friday, and there've been a bunch of games for the American holiday right so far. And San Jose actually won today, so San Jose has actually leapfrogged the Canucks and are in third, and now the Canucks are in fourth. And in a wild card position. But regardless, the Canucks yesterday, by the time American Thanksgiving had hit, they were in third place in the Pacific Division. And why is that important? Well, the American Thanksgiving has been long thought of as a good benchmark, a good measuring stick for teams that make the playoffs. Now, it's not 100% accurate, and the St. Louis Blues proved that last season in their miraculous run at the start of 2019 once the calendar year flipped. But stats-wise, 75% of the teams that are in a playoff spot when American Thanksgiving hits, they remain in the playoffs. They continue on to make the playoffs. So 75%, 3 out of 4, obviously not 100%, not a guarantee, but obviously a good benchmark as well. The stats even go up higher to in the 90s when you look at teams that are more than 4 points ahead of the playoff bar, or more than 4 points away from the playoff bar. Let's try that again. If teams are more than 4 points from the playoff bar above it, or more than 4 points away from the playoff bar below it, then the odds are over 90% that the teams above will stay in the playoff hunt and will make the playoffs, and the teams below, 4 points or more below, will not make the playoffs. So that percentage then goes from 75% up to 90%. Now, the Canucks aren't in that. The Canucks are right on the playoff bar right now, so that doesn't really apply to them. It really only applies to a team you think like Edmonton, who's playing very well and who's more than 4 points above, or like St. Louis. But right now, most of the Pacific Division teams are within that 4-point barometer of the playoff bar, which was set at basically 27, 28 points as of American Thanksgiving. And the Canucks had 28 points in their 26 games. So again, before we talk about what's going to happen going forward, it's not a guarantee, but it is one decent indication that the Canucks will have a good chance of making the playoffs come the end of the year, because they are sitting in a playoff position at American Thanksgiving. Now, as I talked about in yesterday's vlog, we have Edmonton atop the division, Arizona behind them, and then a big jam up of 5 teams within 2 or 3 points of each other. And that included Vancouver, Vegas, Calgary, San Jose, and on Anaheim. San Jose won earlier today, so they've leapfrogged the Canucks right now. Vegas is playing as we speak, or they will be playing today, so they have a chance to also leapfrog the Canucks. So the Canucks could actually end up being in 5th place in the division by the time all the action ends tonight. But then they have the back-to-back with Edmonton, and obviously that's a huge point. I talked yesterday about those points being 4-point games. Well, technically, you put 2 of them together. In theory, that could be an 8-point swing, i.e. the Canucks could go up to only 3 points behind Edmonton for the division lead after playing the 2 games if they win both, or they could fall as far back as 11 behind Edmonton, because they're 7 behind them right now. So that's why it would be an 8-point swing if the Canucks win or lose both games, which is pretty crazy, to think that. But that's kind of what I talked about yesterday. The Canucks are going to start to play more Pacific Division teams for the rest of the season. That starts off tomorrow. Again, with the first of the back-to-back against Edmonton. So when you look at Vancouver and you say, okay, coming into action today, they were tied for 3rd place with Calgary and with Vegas. San Jose right behind them. Like I said, San Jose has actually leapfrogged them. And then Anaheim right behind them. And then Edmonton and Arizona in front of them. Where do you think the Canucks are going to wind up to end off the season? Now, if they told you at the start of the season, hey, on November 29th, the Canucks will be battling for 3rd place in the division, I think 100% of Canucks fans would have taken that. They would have said, sign me up. That sounds really good. They'd be way further ahead than I thought they'd be. It's just funny how the way they've got there and how recency bias can affect us. The Canucks had such a good October battling for the number 1 spot in the division, and such a bad November that right now we're remembering the bad November, the losses to Pittsburgh and to Philly and 2 losses to Dallas and so on and so forth. So we kind of have that recency bias, that memory in our head right now. So right now we'd say, ooh, I don't know if the Canucks, if they play like this, they're not going to make the playoffs for sure, right? Vegas is too good. Calgary's going to straighten himself out. San Jose is playing well as well. Who knows about Anaheim? And Edmonton, Arizona might not fall off. So that's 6 teams that the Canucks could finish behind. And that's because if you go by how poorly they've been playing for the past couple of weeks, you might say that. But imagine if Canucks had a bad October and had a really good November. Imagine if it was reversed. We'd be saying, "Oh man, the Canucks are hot right now. They're hotter than Calgary and Vegas, and they're going to catch Edmonton, Arizona if they keep on going. They're going to hold off the Anaheim Ducks and San Jose Sharks, whatever it may be." So it's important to look at the context here. Is if the Canucks basically wiped out the first 2 months of the season, they got to keep the points, but basically started fresh, and you didn't know which team would show up, which is kind of true actually. We don't know which team is going to show up. I think all Canucks fans would take the fact that, hey, we're battling for third place and fourth and fifth, therefore a wild card spot 2 months into the season. That's awesome. Now, going forward, what is going to happen? Well, I think the important thing to remember, and it can't be understated. It sounds like I'm making excuses, but it's the truth. We are missing our third and fourth centers. We have been for the past couple of weeks. You can't simply just replace Brandon Sutter and Jay Beagle. Yeah, you might say, "Oh, you can replace their offense." Yeah, sure you can. But can you replace the way they win faceoffs, the way they kill penalties, the way they play good defensively? And it's not just those two guys. It's the trickle-down effect. Bo Horvat has had to take almost every important defensive zone faceoff. Bo Horvat has to kill penalties, and you could argue he's not the best penalty killer, nor does he need to be, when you should have guys like Beagle, Sutter, Eriksson, Mott, Roussel, those type of guys, Schaller. But all those guys aren't playing right now. A lot of those guys aren't playing. So when you miss Beagle, when you miss Sutter, you miss Anton Roussel, he was our unsung hero last season. You miss Michael Ferland, a prized free agent signing, and you miss Tyler Mott, his hustle and his reliability on the penalty kill the fourth line. That's 5 out of 12 forwards. Granted, you could argue they're all bottom 6 forwards, but still, we're playing guys in the bottom 6 that probably shouldn't be there right now. Guys like McEwen, guys like Graovac. Some would argue maybe guys like even in Tim Schaller, even though he had a good start of the season. So you can see how it's simple. It's an important factor, is what I'm trying to say, that the Canucks have been missing 5 of their top 12 forwards. So good news, Michael Ferland practiced. He's almost ready to come back from his concussion. Brandon Sutter is close. I think Anton Roussel is close. So those 3 guys are closer. Then you extend a bit. Jay Beagle still in IR, and then Tyler Mott still in IR. So maybe those 2 guys are a bit further away. But maybe by Christmas time, we have all 5 of those guys back, and then the Canucks are a completely different team. Their bottom 6 makeup is a lot better, and they're going to be a lot tougher to play against. More like the October Canucks as opposed to the November Canucks. And I think that's the biggest factor. The D has struggled a little bit. The goalies have struggled a little bit. But it's a team game. I'm not just going to pin it on a particular goalie or a particular D-man. They've all had their ups and downs. And there's been a lot of positives to the season, which I've talked about a lot, especially in October. But I'll save that for another video. Right now, I just really want to look at an honest look at the Pacific Division standings, an honest assessment of where the Canucks are right now, and really trying to project where they end up. I think they will end up in a playoff spot. Whether it's a third place or maybe more likely a wild card spot, depending on how well the Central does. It's still tough to say what they're doing over there. Everything's log jammed actually in all divisions. So I do think that the Canucks, as long as their D stays healthy, as long as their goaltending is good, and as long as the Canucks slowly start to get all their forwards back, I truly do think they will make a playoff spot, whether it's in third place or one of the 2 wild card positions. But looking at the standings today, they're fighting in those positions right now, and I think we'd all agree that is probably further ahead, or at least what we hoped in a best case scenario, if we were to answer very honestly of what we were thinking at the start of the season. I would love to know what you think. What did you think of their October? What did you think of their November? Do you agree with this whole recency bias thing about depending on what happened recently, that's kind of how we view our team right now? And do you agree with me that the biggest factor to our bad play recently has been the missing 5 of our top 12 forwards? Or am I overestimating how effective those guys can be because they are bottom 6 guys? Let me know. Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you think about that. Canucks practice this morning in Edmonton ahead of their back-to-back game number 1 in Edmonton tomorrow. I'll be going to the athletic event with Thomas Drance. So if any of you are there, I'd love to say hi and catch up and talk Canucks then. So enjoy the day. Subscribe if you'd like to. Like this video if you'd like to. Leave a comment below. Let's talk Canucks. Let's talk about the season. Let's talk about the fact that they're in a playoff spot at American Thanksgiving. Have a great day. God bless. Go Canucks, go.